close the door.
Hey, duelists, we're going to get ready. You guys want to find your seats?
Sit down.
Thanks, Ryan.
Nonconformist right there.
All right. So, how you guys doing? Great. Good. Having a good championship so far? Yeah. Woo! All right. So, welcome to the brand panel. The R&D panel. I am Andrea Cole, the community manager for Kaijudo, and with me I have Drew Nalesko, Ryan Miller, and Mons Johnson, and they are going to talk to you about creating Kaijudo.
Hey, everybody. So we're going to talk to you about...
Clap.
I wish all panels could have Ryan Miller on. So we're going to talk to you about making Kaijudo, but first... Click the button! Oh, first, a word about Winter Champs. Scanning.
They're learning.
Scanning. 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 Back up, back up. What cheer will be in Providence? It's not actually going to be winter. Well, actually, it's Providence, so it's always cold. All right. All right. So, who wants to come to Winter Champs? Who wants to come to Winter Champs if you got that? Who likes the new holofoil? I know one way you can get a holofoil card. It's to come to Winter Champs. All right, so you'll notice that this card, when it's broken as a shield blast, gets Winter Champs. So we have this new textless technology in R&D that allows us to print cards with nothing on them. So a couple of rules issues about cards like this. You don't get to write in what it says. If we are convinced to write in something, that's totally legal. All right, back to actually making Kaijudo. All right, so we have this new standard environment, and the fine folks to my right, Ryan and Mons, are going to talk about what it means to create Kaijudo when standard is the new format.
Oh, well, we each get our own. Hello, hey, I'm Ryan Miller. I was the lead designer for Kaijudo for a long time, and then I've been still working with the team. And standard is something we talked about. We had been talking about for quite a while as something that that healthy card games need to do. And I know that's not what we're talking about today.
We can. We actually have a question about that.
Oh, we do have a question about that. Okay. So when it comes to designing in a standard environment. I found that while there are some cards we don't have to worry about anymore when we design cards, we still think of those cards because people still play them, right? And so while standard is an important format for the health of this game, we still consider open when we design. So when I'm designing a set, I tend to think more about the set and less about the format. Ooh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I guess that's my answer to that. Is it different? Not a ton for me.
Yeah, it's not a ton different because you have the same goals. We want to make powerful cards. We want to make cards that are interesting. We want to stretch the player's imagination. We don't want to make bad cards, or at least.
I want to make some.
Okay. Sure. Luckily, development is there to stop that sort of thing. Or excessively confusing cards, stuff like that. So the goals are still the same. The one, it's actually probably better to think about it slightly differently. We design the cards as regular, but also consider open. We threw a few bones in this set and in the next set that are kind of aimed more for open, and you clever guys can figure it out. Probably.
Yeah.
But basically, no, it's not much different than what we did before.
Designing a set of cards, you have to kind of put on different hats. You got to look at it through the lens of various types of players. And every format adds another type that you have to look at it through. You know, how is this set for the standard player? How's it for the draft player? How's it for the open player? And that's true of any card game, really. You have to think of how is this for a combo player? How is this for an aggro player? How is this for a control player? Those sorts of things. So I would say if it does change, it is that it adds another lens for us to look at the set and make sure that we're giving you guys the service you need in those sets for those various types of play patterns.
So how is draft? So we got these questions from you guys, sending them in to us. How is draft changed how you guys design and develop sets?
It's harder.
Yeah,
It is much harder.
Yeah, it's a lot harder. The big thing is every card is important in draft, whereas for a constructed environment, the focus for the design and development is on the most powerful cards, the cards that define the environment. And it doesn't matter much whether you have a 3-for-4 blocker or a 4-for-5 blocker. It just doesn't make much difference for the standard environment, because like both those are like, yeah, they're not quite standard cards. I mean, they're fine cards, but very few standard decks will have just a random 4-for-5 blocker. But for draft, it makes a big difference because you'll have a 5K that's a common, and whether there's a 3-for-4 blocker or a 4-for-5 blocker, it makes a big difference. So the big difference for draft, designing for draft and developing for draft versus standard environments is you just have to look at more cards in the set. It just takes longer to test. We drafted a lot, an F-ton for Gauntlet. And it took a lot of time, a lot of effort, and luckily it was a lot of fun. And so when we was like, we need more for draft, you know, we could get people, which is a really good thing.
I mean, we talked about draft before I left Wizards over a year ago, or longer probably. We started talking about draft, and I remember Kieran saying we're going to make packs larger, because that's, you know, the first thing you need to do if you want a draftable product. And I was like, yay! And then I was like, oh wait, that means a lot of things. That means a lot of things. And so we had to, you know, raise the set sizes, and for, you know, my concern early on was just design space, because this game, one of the strengths of this game is that it's really quick to pick up. It's a very easy game to pick up, but there's a lot of depth in the cards and that sort of thing. From a design standpoint, that actually kind of creates some problems, because it's very hard to make a simple card in this game. Like, I can make super rares all day. I've made 3 in the few minutes we've been talking, right? But tell me to design a light common, and it's really hard. It's really hard, because the simple abilities in this game tend to be really powerful. What's a simple ability that light has? Gain a shield. All right, well, that's very simple, but it's way too powerful, right? So my concern going in is, well, we're going to increase the number of commons. That means that puts more pressure on that part of the design, right? So I was like, you know, it was a tall order. I'm really proud of the team that did Gauntlet. I worked a bit on it, but it was mostly these guys. They worked really, they worked
a lot of
really
guys
hard.
back there that did a lot of work.
Is that Steve Warner back there?
Yeah.
Steve is one of my favorite developers and one of my favorite guys to work with. He will kill your dreams. But I'd much rather he do it than one of you guys do it. I'll come to him, and Mons is similar, I'll come to him with this mechanic. They're like, I'm so excited about this. And they're like, bam, bam, bam. And I'm like, what have I done? But that's what we do, right? That's how we design. And that team just worked so hard to make Gauntlet a great set, great for drafting, great for constructed. And I'm just so pleased that they knocked it out of the park. They really did. So thank you guys for that. Anyway, sorry, enough of that.
Yep.
So one of the questions that we've got,
We have one mic.
Yep.
one of the questions that we've gotten in a variety of different forms is, what's up with powerful block,
Here, you fix it.
and what's up with water blockers in general? That Gauntlet changed things. What's going on?
Water blockers.
Water blockers. Who wants to say?
And powerful block. Mons, are we going to see more powerful block?
We will see more powerful block.
Yeah.
And the one interesting thing that happened when we were testing draft is about a third of the way through testing limited, all the developers kind of looked at each other and we were like, wow, water sucks. And so we did a couple things, like like we changed, like there was a 5-for-4 vanilla, and we changed it to the 5-for-3 blocker that can attack, come to play, draw a card. So it was like take one of the worst cards in the environment and say this is a common. All right, water needs some quality cards. You want reasons to draft water.
That, by the way, everybody, that card prior to getting its new text was called Hydrobot 3.
Yeah, and Powerful Block is an extension to make things a little bit different. It's a relatively simple ability, and because it's simple and it's got some nice nuance, there's a bunch of things you can do with it. It's something that we're definitely going to repeat. In fact, I can guarantee you it.
It goes back to that need for simple abilities
Yep.
on commons, right? I mean, it really, there's a great example of like, it's a simple ability, we can put it on a few cards, and I don't see it going either. And you did touch on something that I meant to say earlier, which is, one of the things we strive for in designing sets is a healthy environment, and one of the things I define that as is an environment that has several viable decks that you can compete with. And when you design for draft, you know, instead of shooting for a few, we have, it really multiplies. We want to make sure there's a ton of different ways. As you're drafting, I'm going to go this way, I'm going to go that way, because that makes for fun drafting. When you're in the middle of a draft and you change, you make this bold choice to change, or or you get excited about the deck you're drafting. So, anyway, sorry. Next.
So one of the questions that we get all the time, and in an infinite number of variations, that we really couldn't just answer in one simple way up here, is how do you pronounce blah? Like, how do you pronounce Rapids Lurker Wurscherwhirl? So I just want to point out, most of you guys are here and you're not checking the website. We answered that question in mass with a really handy WotC pronunciation guide video, which we're not going to play here because we're not going to subject you to all of this, but the answer to your question, all of your questions, is here. And remember,
Pronunciation questions.
oh, right.
If you have other questions about life or finances, that's not.
We cannot help you with those. All right, moving on. What was the ultimate factor in deciding to implement a rotation system in Kaijudo? And now, Mons is going to answer this question, and to help prepare, Mons sent me a slide.
All right, so as you can see, there's four basic, if you break down the probabilities, there's four directions that you can go with the longevity of a game. First, you can have a rotation where some cards are standard legal for a while, and then they leave, and then new cards come in. And so you'll have which is what we adopted for Kaijudo. You could also ban cards. Actually, it works reasonably well. It's not. We preferred rotation for details that I will get into. But for like our Duel Masters game in Japan, that's our basic policy. Yu-Gi-Oh! Obviously also uses that policy of just, all right, this card is a problem. It's a little too powerful. We'll ban it. Reduce the overall power level a smidgen so new cards can rise up. You could also, there's other two things that could happen. One, you could just make cards better and better all the time.
Bad.
How do you feel about that, Mon?
That's not good. Bad. And the reason, of course, is that there's an implicit promise in your Andromedas, in your older cards, that they'll still have value because we're going to support open. And there's still going to be people that want those cards, and there'll still be cards that people will compare the new cards to, say, oh, wow, this card is good, it reminds me of blah. Whereas inflation, you don't have that. You just continually make, and eventually, you end up with one-cost speed attacking double breakers. And you can't, it's not sustainable at all.
Coming next year.
And then, of course, the other choice is that you don't have inflation, but you continue to print cards, but if they're not better than the best tuned decks of old, no one plays them. No one buys them. That is also bad because you don't have turnover, you don't have change, it's stale. Yes. And so basically the choice is between rotation and banning cards. The reason we opted for rotation over banning is that we felt it was just a better option. The players, it's a contract with the players. You're telling them straight up, this is when your card is going to be legal from this time to that time in the major format standard, obviously, and it'll still be usable in open. We still have open tournaments. Did we tell them about the?
Yes, actually. So we announced something in the previous panel, and not everyone was there for that. So, Andrea, open.
Oh, that's right. So, what did we announce? We announced that for the Winter Champs, we are going to have what we are calling an open. So, make sure you bring all of your Andromedas, maybe that bottle of wishes, to Providence. So.
That singular bottle of wishes.
One wish.
Okay, and so, like I said, on rotation, it's just implicit. There's no surprise. You know that your card will be standard legal for a set amount of time. With banning cards, more cards tend to stay legal, but there's not an implicit promise. And obviously, this was seen with what happened to Bottle. It was just a little too powerful, a little too oppressive. We chose to ban it. There's a lot of a lot can go wrong with that equation, and rotation is just generally safer for all people involved.
Right. I mean, when Mon said that there's a kind of social contract that we have with you guys, we are here to provide entertainment, and the more consistently we can entertain you guys, the better it is for everybody involved. You have more fun, more of the time, and we are successful as a company more consistently. And rotation just throws chaos into the system in a way that you guys can't predict. It's like, a rotation point's coming up. We tell it a year in advance. You can prepare for it. You can prepare for the changes to open in certain ways. New sets come out. That's kind of chaos, but that's cool chaos, right? Because you're getting new things thrown into the mix. I've seen what happens in other games. We've all seen up here what happens in other games when 50-card ban lists come out, and it's not fun. It's just fundamentally not fun. And our job is to make you guys have fun. So.
Well, and our job is to bring more people in the game too, and rotation helps that. So.
There's been some talk about getting rid of your Andromedas. I don't know if that's a good idea. Cards tend to go up in value. All right, so moving on. What do we got next?
A slide.
Oh, do we have our favorite card? And why is it our favorite card? Let's start. So I'm going to go around everybody in R&D who's in the room, and I'm going to call you out. I'm going to call you out specifically, and I'm going to ask you, tell me what's your favorite card. Chris Dupuis, where are you?
Yay!
Chris Dupuis, everybody.
My favorite card is Oathsworn Tall because it was cool before Shield Blast creatures was super cool.
All right, nice. Scott Van Essen, stand up.
Yay, Scott!
My favorite card is War Chief Kyo because he's got a little body, but he just kicks some butt.
Who do we got? Steve Warner.
My favorite card is Scared Honorable Behemoth because it's super exciting.
What is this card? I don't know what you're talking about. All right. Andrew Ravine, stand up.
Release card.
Yeah, it's next set.
Regent Sasha.
Why?
Have you read the card?
It's like we planned that. Andrea Cole.
Mine is actually Scare Adorable of Gloom Hollow.
Regent.
Why?
Regent Sasha.
Well, one, I love the art. Two, the artist is going to be here.
Oh, that's right.
Hey!
Yeah,
Does everybody know that we have artists here? Who likes signed cards? Okay. Who likes custom drawn playmats, original prints, all these cool things? So we have two artists here. We have
Daisuke?
Daisuke is here, and Jesper is here. So
He will be here tomorrow.
right. So
Yeah, just look.
I have a request from the artist. okay?
Oh.
At Winter Champs, there was a mad rush for the artists at particular times. So please spread out your visits to the artists so that they can give you the personalized attention that you require. Like by personalizing your stuff, it takes a while. So, Mom's favorite card.
I like the Seneschal Choten's Lieutenant, because I secretly pretend to be the Choten occasionally.
No, that's my job.
My favorite card used to be Bottle. But apparently some of you got cranky about that. It's not my favorite card anymore. Now it's Spelljacker.
Oh,
Because I designed it. It's actually one of my favorite. I just love the variants of I don't know what he's gonna cast, but it's gonna be awesome. He's Spelljacker. Variants is good.
Charlie Catino. I did
Yay,
not see
Charlie.
you sneak into the room. What's your favorite card, Charlie? Shall we get some non-R&D?
Why?
favorite
Ask him why.
Sure.
Why? Why? Charlie plays a Glurgle deck.
Can we have Charlie page somebody?
No.
No?
Just-
No. He pages people really funny. Okay, can you page James, please?
What is your favorite card? Which one? There's like 13 of them, dude.
Ah,
Oh.
the Madonna of the Tatsurian.
The first. My name is Tatsurian. I have no last name.
I don't need one.
That leaves me. Did I miss anybody from R&D? Any guest R&D members? Okay. My favorite card is Zombie Backhoe. And the reason it's named my favorite card is Zombie Backhoe is because
Backhoe?
Yeah, it's just like a truck.
Okay. Who names these things, man?
He does! So we have this gigantic database that has all of the art from Japan.
From
And-
Duel Masters in Japan,
from
not
Duel Masters.
just the Japanese art.
So have you seen some of the art from Japan? So part of my job is to go through and, along with other fine people like Chris Dupuis, we go through and we match flavor and mechanics. And sometimes we do that at the beginning, like we say, wow, this would be awesome, this piece of art would be awesome, let's design a card around it. And sometimes we have these really cool designs and we say, wow, let's find a piece of art that really just makes that card sing. And so I'm just sort of like paging through, there's like thousands and thousands of records, and I'm paging through the FileMaker database, and just going, holy crap, it's a Zombie Backhoe. One of the very few cards that made it all the way through from original slot in the file to publication with its card name intact is Zombie Backhoe. Because they kept changing it back.
That's one of the most amazing, one of the most amazing things about this game is the art is just so crazy and fun, and it really adds to that character and the texture. And I also worked on Duel Masters in my time there, and got to see a lot of because not all the art in Duel Masters is usable in Kaijudo. I remember one it looked like a Pac-Man, like he was a big ball with like big mouth, and he had like teeth. And he was riding a horse made of like lava, and he had like 6 guns around it. It was just so bizarre. I think my favorite though was it was like this. What? I think my favorite was there was this like awesome dragon, this badass dragon. He actually looked really cool. But in the foreground was a cartoon baby, and a bubble that said, "I peed my pants." Well, it said in Japanese, and I turned to Shaba, who's our RD guy for Japan, or for Duel Master rather. I'm like, what does that say? Because it's this little cartoon baby in front of like a realistic, like awesome dragon. He goes, oh, I peed my pants. I'm like, okay.
Who wouldn't?
It's not a scratch and sniff card, at least.
Oh, good.
All right.
So
what's
actually, Duel Masters Japan has done scratch and sniff cards.
Yeah.
Curry flavored.
Curry, yeah, there was a curry card because the main character in the story loved curry bread.
There is some
Okay,
technology
right.
we are not importing to the United States.
This one smells like Mons.
Oh.
He's got a nice musk. Okay.
All right.
All right. Don't assume.
Ryan.
Designing for draft. Okay. So we kind of touched on some of the stuff for designing for draft. One of the toughest parts of designing for draft is designing commons and uncommons.
Yep.
And one of the questions that I get all the time is, hey, you guys increased the size of the set. Why didn't you just increase the number of rares and super rares? Like, why not? Why didn't we do this? We want to keep the value of the pack the same in terms of your chance to get a very rare or super rare card. So the drop rate is the same as it was prior to going up to 14 card packs. We expanded a number of commons and uncommons so that we could provide a deeper draft experience over time. We want you to be able to draft the third time and the fourth time and say, oh, I'm going to try something new. And Gauntlet, I hope, lives up to that promise. I think the more you draft as the week goes on, you'll find that there are different strategies. One of the ways that we communicated what those strategies are is through the rare cycles. So, Mons, you want to talk about those 10 multicolor cards?
Yeah, you guys probably already noticed this, but the most, not all, but most of the 10 multicolor cards have a theme or a function that if you pair the two colors, there's cards in the color pairs that suggested that theme. An example, excellent example is the Zombie Backhoe, which says that when you discard,
It's so
it's a
funny.
serious card. Serious players play that serious card, including myself. That if you discard a card, or when a player discards a card, a creature gets PA +3 and Double Breaker. So it works both with Darkness's ability to force the opponent to discard, and in Gauntlet, we made several looting cards that you discard a card for an effect or value. And so this guy is a nice little fit to suggest if you're drafting these colors, this is a strong guy to get in that. And most of the color pairs have a guy along this line. The original design file had some of these changed. Some, like Zombie Backhoe, stayed straight all the way through. And instead of changing the color pair guy, we actually went in and changed some of a significant number of the cards in the set to support this theme. So it's an ongoing process, and it takes a while and iteration. So we didn't reach all those, and some of them, like the light nature guy, was just such a favorite among designers and developers. We said, evolutions, sure, all right, you're good. There's not a strong theme for that card in those two colors. It's just evolutions are good. The set's about evolutions. So we didn't do it strictly with all the 10 cards, but a good portion, if you look at them closely, are very evocative of a draft strategy.
So one of the reasons we did that is because we know that a lot of people who are drafting Kaijudo are drafting for the first time completely. People coming from other games that don't support draft, people who may not have chosen to draft before, and we wanted ways to help point out archetypes inside of the draft set that guided the first time we had draft. So I think it was successful. Email us, tell us what you think. We talked a lot about designing for draft before, so I'm going to skip on ahead to when we last left our heroes. So what's going on in the story of Kaijudo? So there's this first Gauntlet thing, and it's clearly very powerful, and everybody wants it, which is why you're all here fighting for it. But what does it do? Well, the Choten clearly wants it, and Chris, what does the first Gauntlet do? What did the first Gauntlet do?
The first Gauntlet created the Veil.
Okay, so that separated Earth into two realms, the human realm and the creature realm. And clearly it's extraordinarily powerful. It's clearly a dueling gauntlet. And if you've been watching the website, you'll notice that we've got some kind of key fights going on. Many of them are standees. The creatures are standees here today. So Heller finds the first gauntlet, and the War of the Civilizations that was going on in Clash of the Civilizations uncovered a whole bunch of things that probably should have been left covered and lost to time, and the first gauntlet was one of them. So the Duel Masters aren't very good at keeping records. I mean, they lose things like how to evolve creatures, and what do we do with the gauntlet that created the Veil? But it's been a long, long time since those things were first used. Heller found the runes of the temple, finds the gauntlet. This is a bad thing, and he's going to take it for his own selfish ends. Gabe duels him, and how does that go?
Gabe wins the duel.
That's because Heller's not very smart.
The gauntlet powers down and rejects its wielder, and Gabe gains control of the gauntlet.
Okay, so then someone else is looking for the gauntlet. Who controls Trox? Right, okay. So is it a good thing if the Chotin gets his hands on the gauntlet? No? Do you guys know really why it's not? Because the gauntlet actually says it. It says it right on the gauntlet. Here, let's take a closer look at the gauntlet. Oh, no, there's the big fights coming up. Let's take a closer look at the gauntlet. That's not the slide I'm looking for. That's not the slide I'm looking for. This is not the slide I'm looking for. Hey, guys, you can translate this stuff. And the first person who translates it and puts it in writing to me gets a cookie.
Seriously.
Some kind of weird golf language.
So,
That's impressive. Yeah.
someone on the dojo even identified it as cuneiform and said, "Hey, that's really awesome. The gauntlet was from ancient Mesopotamian times. That's like a really long time ago." And I was like, "They're gonna do it. They're gonna translate." Who was that? Was that Mike Murphy?
No, I think it was Scott.
It was Scott?
It was Scott.
That was Scott. Okay. Google is your friend. All right, so we have this gauntlet thing. It's super powerful. Literally, the fate of two worlds resides in who's going to take home the gauntlet. Who of you is going to take home the gauntlet?
Not me.
Okay, that's awesome. It's like,
It's going to be me.
one guy's like, I got it. And everybody else is like, okay, he can do it. He was first.
We're very polite in Seattle. It's rubbing off on you guys.
All right, so when you actually get your hands on the gauntlet, you can see what the cuneiform is. I'm serious. The first person who brings me a translation of what that says gets a cookie. Cookie.
Delicious cookie.
All right, time to talk about the You Make the Card. I know you're all excited about You Make the Card. We listened last time. We had a lot of feedback from how we did it last time, and we're going to be doing it differently this year. Last year was a little chaotic. This year's going to be a little bit less chaotic. So we have a focus. I've talked about the things that are important about being a game designer, and one of the things that's really important about successful game design is iteration. And Ryan is going to talk about iteration and why it's important, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about how we apply it to this You Make the Card.
Well, first, it's a fun word to say. It's got weird syllables. Iteration, because a lot of times, as a designer, I try not to limit myself too much when I'm coming up with stuff. And I tell my guys, like, when you're designing, one of your jobs is to scare the developers.
You don't just get it right on the first try?
No, I do.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no,
All right,
my
fair,
team, though, sometimes.
Yeah.
No, because a lot of times I know what I want a card to do. It's like, I kind of want to do this, and this is kind of how I think it can work. With iteration, is basically the concept of designing and then redesigning until you get it right. And we do it a couple ways at Wizards. One is that we have this wonderful database that looks less cooler than you probably think you're thinking it looks right now. It's not. It's a very boring piece of software, but in it lives every single card, and it gives us places to comment on cards and talk about cards. You guys would be amazed at how much discussion goes over every single card. And one thing we try to do in iteration, and one thing I encourage you to do when you're designing, is when you've got an idea that you'd like about a card, I want a card that does this, try to preserve that. Whatever the card ends up doing, like dig down and like, well, why do I want to do that? What do I really want? Like I do a lot of top-down design, which means I design a lot of times from the theme or whatever the card is going to be. I love, tell me to design a dragon, you know, when James Hott and I had to design Dragon Strike Furnace together, we were just like kids in a candy store. We were like, more dragons, and you get a dragon, and you get a dragon, and you get a dragon. And it was just insane, and we were having a great time, right? It was a lot of fun. So, you know, you might start there, and you're like, well, I want an armored dragon that, you know, conveys this sense of he's a leader, and he does these things. And I encourage you to use those kinds of words because they can help you when you're iterating. You're like, oh, okay, well, this version of leader didn't quite, you know, work, but I know I wanted to be a leader. And those kinds of words, those non-game terms, can really help you kind of preserve or define your vision for whatever you're trying to design. But iteration, and it's also a strong tool in iteration because things can get redesigned, as long as it has that core, like, well, this is what I want for this card. This is, you know, you'll still get a card that you're happy with, right? You'll still get a card like, okay, it does what I want it to. Now, sometimes iteration means you kick something out entirely and just, you know, we have a term called CQI. Have we told them about CQI? Have you ever heard that term, CQI? It's a term I think I've only heard in Wizards.
I think so.
It stands for constant quality improvement. And what we do is whenever we don't like a card and we know we're going to kick it, we delete its text and replace it with CQI. I think we use it because it's easy to search for. Like you're not going to accidentally find something when you're searching for CQI. Anyway, there's some really ridiculous trivia for you there. But iteration is important, but it's important to hold on to like what you originally want to do with that card, right? I've done it so many times where I'll say, here's what I want, and Steve and Mons will be like, it can't be that way, and I'm like, dang it. But I go back to that core of like what I wanted for that card or what I was trying to convey. So yeah.
So it's interesting that you said that Steve and Mons gave you feedback. How important is the feedback of your peers and other coworkers to you in iteration? Do you just do this yourself, or is this?
No, it's absolutely collaborative. I think like learning how to collaborate is one of the biggest skills you can have as a designer. Like being a designer, you're kind of putting your, you know, it's an art, right? And artists put themselves into their work. And what that means is that when we get criticized, we get stung a little bit because it's like, oh, you don't like me. You don't like me. I mean, that's all my whole job is. Stop it.
You're a good guy.
Yeah. So, but you have to work past that because those kind of discussions and pushback are so important to the final product. Pushback in general is really powerful for any creative process because you'll either take the pushback and go, actually, it's a good point. You know, I'm going to incorporate that. Or you're going to push back on the pushback and go, well, no, I'm going to defend my idea because here's why I think this is important. Either way, your idea's gotten better. Either way. And so understanding the value of that kind of pushback, if you're not used to it, it can be a little jarring when people are like, well, that's dumb, I'll just do this. And you're like, you know. Once you understand the value of it, and it has to be in a atmosphere of mutual respect, too. Once you understand that and you have that kind of teamwork and respect, pushback just makes everything better. And so we, like, the way we design the area that we work in is called the pit. And it's cubicles, but they're all low-walled cubicles. And it sounds really weird and like what kind of detail, but the purpose of that is to facilitate those random conversations that happen. That way, at any point when I'm working, I can just turn around and go, hey, Mons, what do you think of cards that flip off the top of the deck and then blah, 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 whatever. And he'll give me some instant feedback, and that will help me define, like, my direction. In that case, don't do it. It would need feedback. But you see, now that cuts it off at the pass. I don't have to go down this whole, because the worst part is when you get really excited about an idea, but you don't tell anybody about it, you get more and more excited. And the more excited you get, the more married you get to it. And then you finally go to the Monses and the Steves, and they go, this is completely broken, and here's why. And you're like, but I like it. I really do.
So we're iterating on you make the card. We presented something. It went pretty good. You got some good cards out of it, but there are ways we can do it better. And so
constant quality improvement.
We're going to make 2 super rare cards. You're going to make 2 super rare cards, and you're going to practice the iterative process over the weekend as you're making them. So can I get an assistant? Can I get Bobby Break?
Bobby Break.
Everybody get Bobby Break in.
Who's this guy?
Please flip the cards around so everybody can see them.
Yeah, sure, I'll.
We're going to be putting these cards.
Flip them.
They're all the same. There's 2 cards. There's a,
Hold it up so we can see it.
It's actually right there on the screen. So, they just want to make Bobby Break do stuff. Hold the next one up and do a little dance.
So we've got 2 super rare cards. One's a Skyforge champion, one's a Shadow champion. It's interesting that Ryan mentioned leaders before, because I'm going to give you some information, just a sentence about what I'd like you guys to think about when you're creating these cards. There's the Shadow champion.
It's awesome.
It's so cool. And then tonight, from 7 to 10, every qualified player will have a chance to have a one-on-one design meeting with a member of R&D. And these meetings will be around 5 to 10 minutes. There's a lot of you. There's only some of us. We'll get to, as everyone, we guarantee we will get to everyone and give you as much time as we can. And then over the course of the weekend, come back to us and iterate on your design. And we'll keep giving you feedback as long as you come and talk to us. Take your design, talk to each other, talk to us, talk to lots of different people so you get different points of feedback, because we all have specialties. You know, we all have ways that we can improve stuff. And then keep talking with us all weekend. And by the end of the weekend, each competitor can submit one design for each of the 2 super rare creatures. Okay? Is that clear? Everybody get that? All right. And when you submit, I want you to think of these 2 super rares, and the only guidance I'm going to give you is that they are leaders amongst their civilization. Not amongst their creature type, amongst their civilization. And the first question I got from friends when I was saying, hey, you know, this is how I'm going to do this tonight is, well, what level of leader are we looking for? We're looking for like general of an army type, that level of leader. Okay? So the submission should include a card name, the card level, the creature's power, any rules text that you want to go on it, and some flavor text.
Make sure it has some rules text.
Yeah, seriously.
We have enough vanillas.
Who was a super rare vanilla? Raise your hand.
It'll be a troll. Like, oh, I got trolled. Ah.
All right, so we're gonna be putting these up around the rooms over the course of the weekend, and from 7 to 10 tonight. So after dinner, we will all be up here. We'll have a big row of R&D people, and you guys can queue up. And when there's a free seat, you can come and talk to us. And then after we've gotten to everybody, I'll do a call out. It's like, anybody not get a chance to speak to R&D? And if anybody says yes, then we'll deal with them and talk to them. And if everybody's, yeah, I got you, then we can take you for a second time. Okay?
This is actually a pretty common way too. When we're working on cards, I'll like come to Drew. We'll have a meeting, and he'll say, and you know, here's this character. You know, he is this. You know, she is. You know, she's the leader. She has these. You know, he'll give me these non-game terms for the character, and that is hugely helpful when designing cards, especially for the main characters, the ones we really want to make sure we get their personalities in through there. So I think that's just I don't know where it's going.
Cool. So, I mean, that's how the design process works. And this is actually close. Questions later. This is the closest we can give you an experience to how R&D actually makes cards. We think it's kind of cool, and we want to iterate on this for the future. So when we're done with this, after you've got a chance to submit, tell us how this process worked for you guys as competitors at a Champs event. All right, so running out of time. These panels never have enough time. So that's an art description on the screen. Art descriptions are what people like Chris and I write to describe to the art director, Kevin Smith, who's awesome. Kevin, are you here? Damn it. No, Kevin's not here. Kevin's awesome. He's largely responsible for the full art look of the super rares and the move towards that. So he's a super large part as to why Kaijudo looks like Kaijudo. So this is an art description that we provided to Kevin. Can anyone guess what this creature is? Not you. And no, but you're heading in the right direction. Yes, it's the thing in the new Triple Strike. Da-da-da. It's time to talk about Elite Series Horde Onslaught. Woo! All right, it's coming out soon. Got some new stuff. So this is what we get back from the artist for the first time. This is the artist saying, okay, your art description of a beastkin clearly piloting or controlling a light aircraft. Pose, hybrid creature is a transport aircraft delivering another beastkin into battle. Other details, the beastkin pilot is based on a rhino. The artist is like, what the hell is up with these guys? And then he sends us back this. In this case, this is Chris Seaman, and he sends us back these sketches and says, is this kind of what you're thinking about? And we're like, absolutely. And then we get a sketch phase, which is black and white pencil version of the art. And the artist is saying to the art director and the R&D team, So this is what I imagine your card would look like. Does this match your vision? And in this case, this was an ideal art process because every step of the way, we're like, wow, Chris, you did an amazing job. And then he says, all right, let's color it in. And we get this full art piece of art. Some pieces of full art will have things that extend all the way from top to bottom, but we're always going to prioritize on full art cards things that will not be covered up by the text area. But we may be hiding some cool stuff down there, so keep looking down there. There are goats in an upcoming card. And this is what it looks like as a final card. So I'm sure you're all really, really excited. This comes out in July. So there were other contributors to Elite Series. Can I get the 2 contributors to stand up? Robbie?
Robbie's not.
Robbie's not here. So as winners of the first Summer Champs, those guys got the ability to work on the names and flavor text. They did a great job and worked with R&D on coming up with some awesome names and some awesome flavor text. And I'm sure you all want to play with these cards. So up next, you have some Elite Series. So you'll all be getting, all competitors will be getting Elite Series Horde Onslaught now. We really like giving away stuff at Champs.
We're suckers.
Thank you. You're awesome too. We're important rule stuff. If Matt Tabak was here, he would be the one to say this because he's like 9 feet tall and can scream out over anyone. But so I put it up on screen. The exclusives aren't legal this weekend because the product's not actually released.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. It's an instant disqualification. Bad idea. However, all of the fine cards that are reprinted from previous sets with gold borders, go pimp out your decks.
Yeah.
And we're done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Seattle.
All right.
Howdy.
Thank you, guys. If you have any questions, we aren't going to actually be doing them in person right now. What I want you to do is I want you to either post them on the Facebook page or tweet them to me at wizards_Kaijudo. And then Kieran and I and the rest of the R&D team are going to be doing them on camera and interspersing them throughout the Twitch feed throughout the rest of the weekend. So go ahead and tweet those to me, do whatever, and we will get to you as much as possible.
What if it's a question about the designer card?
No, that stuff is going to be from 7 to 10 tonight. Yeah.
We're doing Elite Series now, right?
Yeah.